I knew something had shifted the moment she looked at me and didn't. Her eyes, once warm and soft like the last rays of summer sunset, were cold, precise, measuring, almost clinical. We were in the kitchen, the morning sunlight spilling over the countertops, the smell of burnt toast faintly clinging to the air. She placed her coffee cup down a little too hard, lips pressed together in that tight line I'd learned to fear. "I'm with you because of the kids," she said, voice casual, detached, like she was rehearsing the words. "I have no desire for you." It wasn't the first time I'd felt a chill seep into our marriage, but hearing it aloud, her refusal, her honesty, cut deeper than any unspoken tension ever could. My heart thudded, not with anger initially, but with disbelief. "You what?" I croaked, my voice almost foreign in my own ears. She didn't flinch. "I'm not in love with you anymore. Maybe I never was, not in the way that matters, but I'll stay for the kids. That's enough, isn't it?" I stared at her, trying to find a trace of sarcasm, of regret, anything human that would soften the blow. But there was nothing, only a calm, almost cruel detachment. My mind raced, 1,000 fragments of our past colliding. The first apartment we shared, lazy Sundays in park, her laughing in the pouring rain, and now all of it felt like a mirage. The first few days after that conversation were a haze. I went through the motions, making breakfast, driving the kids to school, going to work. My smiles were hollow, my laughter forced. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, try to convince myself I had misheard her, that it was some cruel, flippant comment. But then, little things began surfacing, whispering the truth I didn't want to face. There were late-night phone calls she hid in the bedroom, the slight tension in her body whenever I walked past, the scent of something unfamiliar clinging to her coat. At first, I tried denial. Maybe it was a co-worker, a friend, nothing significant. But denial became suspicion. Suspicion hardened into a gnawing certainty. I started noticing how she avoided my touch. Once, I reached for her hand while we were sitting in the living room, the kids engrossed in their homework. She flinched, subtly, almost imperceptibly, but I saw. My chest tightened, betrayal already blooming like a dark flower inside me. "Do you want to talk?" I asked, my voice low, careful. She shook her head. "About what?" Her tone was light, like she was brushing away a fly. But I could hear it, the calculated distance, the pretense of normalcy. The next clue came almost by accident. I had installed a small security camera in the hallway weeks prior, not because I didn't trust her, but because there were small things missing around the house, little pockets of unease I couldn't explain. When I checked the footage one evening, my stomach dropped. She was laughing in a way I hadn't heard in years, leaning close to a man whose face I had never seen. They kissed softly at first, careful, like conspirators testing boundaries. And then she kissed him fully, completely, without hesitation, without guilt. I shut the laptop, hand shaking. The world seemed to tilt, the floor beneath me suddenly slippery and unstable. I didn't know what to do, where to turn, or even how to breathe. Anger surged, sharp and wild, but it was mixed with a deeper, more insidious ache. The ache of realizing that everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was a lie. Confrontation was inevitable. I waited, letting the tension stretch thin across our home, letting her notice the subtle shift in my demeanor. She picked up on it immediately, of course, because she always did. The night I finally spoke, I chose my words with deliberate calm, every syllable a knife wrapped in velvet. "I saw him," I said softly, sitting across from her at the dining table. The kids were asleep upstairs, the house quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator. She froze, eyes wide, mouth opening slightly, but no words came. "I know what's been happening," I continued. "I know about the late nights, the secrets, the lies. I know you've been pretending with me while—" I stopped, searching for a word that wouldn't diminish the betrayal. "While you've been pretending with someone else." Her face paled, a flicker of panic crossing her features. But instead of remorse, she tried to mask it with a shrug. It's not what you think," she murmured. But I had already stopped listening to the excuses. I knew the truth. I had seen it with my own eyes. "What I can't forgive," I said, voice trembling but steady. Is that you lied? That all these years you let me believe that we were partners, lovers, friends? I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice from breaking entirely. Do you know how that feels? To realize the person you trusted most never felt the same way. She looked down, eyes darting to the table, then back at me, corners of her mouth twitching. I didn't know how to tell you, she whispered. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did, I said, voice rising, a mixture of anguish and fury. You've been hurting me every day, in every little way, with every hidden message, every glance, every kiss you didn't save for me. For a moment, the room was heavy with silence. Her hand shook slightly on the table, a tiny betrayal of the calm she was trying to project. And in that silence, I realized I had reached a turning point. I wasn't just devastated anymore. I was free from the haze of denial, from the paralysis of disbelief. I can't stay, I said finally, my words deliberate, each one cutting a path through the lingering tension. I won't stay for convenience. I won't stay out of habit. I won't stay because of fear or guilt. I will stay only where I am wanted, only where I am loved. Her expression faltered. Shock spread across her face, wide-eyed and unguarded. For the first time in years, I saw her unsure, vulnerable, human. You can't mean that, she stammered. I do, I said, standing now, the decision solidifying in my chest like concrete. I have loved you, truly with every piece of me, but love isn't enough if it's only one-sided. I won't live a life where my presence is tolerated, where my heart is a placeholder. The finality of it hung between us, a weight I both dreaded and welcomed. I knew the path ahead would be hard, the logistics, the family, the heartbreak for the kids, but in that moment, clarity felt like a balm. I would rebuild, I would reclaim myself, and I would do it without her, without the lies. She reached out, hand trembling in midair, as if to grasp at something she could no longer hold. I didn't take it. I turned toward the door, my coat heavy on my shoulder, my heart heavy with grief, but also strangely light with resolve. The hallway felt longer than it had ever been, the walls echoing with all the unspoken words and the weight of years lost. I paused briefly, looking back at her one last time. Her eyes glistened, not with the warmth I once loved, but with the shock and recognition of a life she had failed to honor. I stepped outside into the cold night, the wind sharp against my face, and for the first time in months, I felt the raw edge of possibility. My heart throbbed, not with longing, but with the fierce pulse of self-respect, of boundaries finally drawn. The betrayal had cut deep, yes, but from that wound would grow the clarity and strength I had almost forgotten existed. I walked away, the house dim behind me, the echoes of her silence chasing me like a shadow I would never forget. And as the night air filled my lungs, I realized that some endings were merciless, but necessary. And sometimes leaving wasn't the end of love. It was the rebirth of it within yourself.